Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, and welcome to. I have completely lost track. Episode something of Women Who Vagabond, the series that I started back in November of 2020. I'm trying to bring on just an array of voices of women who are traveling solo, adventuring solo, forging their own paths, and to offer you some different perspectives and insight on what it means to travel solo as a woman. And I'm really excited about my guest today. She is actually going to be the very first guest, and she is Diana, also known as the Subsaharan Flaneuse. And I'm going to bring her on right now and let her introduce herself.
Hey, Toby.
How are you?
I'm great. And you?
I'm good. It looks like your camera's fine, actually.
I ripped off the screen protector, which was all cracked, so it's fine now.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to finally have you on. I was just saying that originally you were going to be my very first guest, and then I had some internet problems, and a few months have passed, and I finally get to have a full chat with you.
Yay! Exciting times.
Where are you tuning in from right now?
I'm tuning in from Kigali, Rwanda. I'm here until June.
And then where are you going?
Well, I'm gonna go to Uganda for a little bit, and then Cape Town, South Africa, and then Namibia, then maybe Ghana, maybe Nepal. It really all depends on the COVID situation at this point.
Of course. And how will you be getting around?
By A. I mean,
By air.
I will try, like when I'm in within countries, I will use buses. I don't have any issues with that, but getting to all these different places, definitely by A.
Got it. I came across an article that you wrote about hitchhiking in Europe, I think,
Yeah.
and really connected with that because that was also one of my favorite ways of getting around when I was traveling in Europe
Mm.
and South Africa, actually. And I'd love for you to just share some of the highlights about what your experience has been hitchhiking in different parts of the world, why you choose that form of transport.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually, you brought that back to mind. One of my biggest, just as a sidebar here, one of the biggest things that I think COVID has really impacted is people's willingness to pick up hitchhikers. I
Yeah.
don't know, like what that's gonna look like when I hit the road again. But let's see, you never know until you try.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
yeah, it's one of the best experiences of my life was hitchhiking through Europe. It wasn't always easy, but I was so happy. I can't even explain it. I was exhausted
Mm.
the whole time because it was my first time hitchhiking, and I decided to take a hiking pack, a 75-liter hiking pack of 20 kgs, and just like, such a novice. I was carrying all the things, but and it was the beginning of April, so it was still pretty cold. It was still snowing, but it was amazing. I loved it. I was so happy. It, so I hitchhiked from Finland to France.
How long did it take you?
Yeah, 2 months. I was on a schedule. Honestly, I would have loved to have taken my time,
Okay.
but because I can only get a Schengen visa for 3 months, and I was kind of on a time budget, so I had 2 months in Europe, and then I wanted to go to Cambodia, so I only had 2 months. And some
Right.
days were rushed. Like I only spent 4 days in Latvia, 4 days in Lithuania. I would have loved to do it a bit slower.
Yeah, I understand. When I started hitchhiking around Europe, I also was going super fast. And in retrospect, it's like, oh man,
Yeah,
I would have stayed longer there. I'd love to go back now.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah,
there's something about the flow, I think, that also really gets you caught up. And it's like, oh, like I'm just going to the next place, going to the next place,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, it's you're
Um,
so right. You're so right.
It's funny what you said about your backpack because my first backpack was also 75 liters and it was just way too big for me. It's like if I can't pick it up when it's full, it's really not the right size.
No. I mean, shout out to my Finnish host, my Finnish couch surfing host. He showed me this trick where you take the straps of the backpack and then you kind of squat and then you hoist it onto one knee and then you
Yeah,
kind of pivot around and like get into the straps. And I'm like, it worked, but I could only do that if there was a wall there. Or sometimes I managed, but it was so hard. Like, why am I
that's
carrying 20
technique though.
kgs on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much how much do you usually carry nowadays when you're
Oh
traveling?
my goodness. Oh, this time, something that I've learned from backpacking and hitchhiking is that the universe always provides everything I
Hmm.
needed. First of all, I lost half my things. I lost yoga mats. I lost water bottles. I lost sleeping bags. But at every stage that I was, people always had what I needed. Like, oh, do you need to borrow these boots? Do you need to borrow these ski pants? Do you need a pair of socks? Do you need, like, people always provide. So you don't need that much. And I ended up leaving clothes behind because there was just too much stuff that I was carrying. So I would just carry the bare essentials like medication, a couple of pairs of socks, a couple of pairs of underwears, like no more than 10 kgs. It's just like 10, 12, maybe 15 at the most. Like, okay, even that's a lot, like 10 kgs at the most. I don't know. How many do
Yeah.
you carry now?
I mean, it's been a while since I've really done a backpacking trip, but I feel like for me, 15 kgs is the limit. That's what I can comfortably sort of lift up with one hand and throw
Yeah,
onto my back.
yeah,
And if I can't, it's different if I'm distance walking and I need camping gear. That's a whole
yes,
different conversation because then it's like, oh, I need a tent, I need a sleeping bag, I need
yeah,
rain gear, whatever. But if I'm, like if I'm staying with friends or I'm staying
couch
in
surfing.
population centers where I can buy something I need or borrow something I need, then right, just the bare minimum, like the clothes I need, spare
Yeah,
pair of shoes, maybe.
yeah.
I don't carry a yoga mat anymore. For a while, I was carrying like one of those really thin travel mats. That's exactly the same as being on the ground. So really, what's the point?
Yeah.
but, but yeah, you learn what's
We live
essential.
and learn. Yeah, you travel and learn, and that's the only way to learn how to travel better, smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when did you start blogging and writing about your travels? And you also make really fun videos, which if you're
I
watching
haven't
this, you
made
should
one for
check
a
out.
while. Thank you.
But you guys,
I haven't made one for a while, but I started blogging in 2018 during my second trip to India. I started blogging on Tumblr just for myself because I was like, I want to remember this, and I was posting them on
mm,
Facebook, and my friends were like, "Oh my God, this is really nice. You should archive these. You should archive your travels." And I've always been a writer, so this time around I was like, I should share my stories. But I started seriously blogging when COVID hit and the world went into lockdown. I was shattered
mm,
because last year summer I was, well, Western Northern Hemisphere summer, I was supposed to hitchhike through Europe for 2 months. And when that got cancelled, I was devastated. I was like, what can I do now? So I decided to
mm,
start blogging my old stories. And there's endless stories. It's just that there needs to be inspiration for me to write and make the videos. But that's when I really
yeah.
started blogging, when I couldn't move. So, yeah.
And what are some of the themes that you find you come back to as a writer, as you write about travel, as you write about your experiences?
One of my main themes is traveling as a Black African woman, right? As a Black African passport holder. That's my central thing. First of all, there's not a lot of accounts out there. That
Mm-hmm.
was that's the premise of my whole blog. The Sub-Saharan Flaneuse. I come from Sub-Saharan countries and I hold Sub-Saharan passports, and it's a different experience to being black with a Western passport or to being white with a Western passport, it's a whole different experience. And I saw that there were not a lot of accounts. A lot of times when you're about to go to a country, you go on the Lonely Planet, or you go on Hitchwiki or Wiki Travel till you get some accounts. But I found that there were very few accounts that told you how to prepare for a country if you're Black and you're African, because you need to know. Like, I had no idea what to expect when I went to Nepal for the first time, when I went to Poland for the first time. Like, nobody warned me. I would have still gone. But I would like the next African traveler to be able to go online and be like, this girl did it. This is what happened. Now I can advise myself. Do I still want to go? And I'm not telling, a lot of it may seem negative, but I'm saying still travel, but just know, like, be ready, you know, like still go. And I want more Africans to travel the way I do. It's not a big thing yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's not about saying don't do it. It's about saying, you know, like, here's just what you should know so that you can be better prepared to do what you're going to do anyways.
Yeah.
That's how I feel writing about solo female travel. It's like, you know, I think women should go out and travel alone. I think it's such a valuable experience. But it helps. It helps be prepared, and I think it takes a lot of fear away, or a lot of, like, sort of demystifying some of those unknowns just makes a lot more people feel comfortable to go and give it a try.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What has the response been like to your blog? Like, are there people looking for this information that are finding you?
I honestly don't know, Toby. I've been very out of touch. I've just been trying to reconnect with myself over the past few months. So I've been really quite out of touch with people who may be finding this useful, but a few people have come to me and been like, why aren't you sharing anymore? You know, which is nice. Even if it's one person or two people. I mean, traveling alone has changed my life so much that even if I touch one person, that's enough for me. I don't need stuff to go viral. I just need the information to be there for that one person who needs to know. What should I expect if I'm going to go to Mongolia with a Kenyan passport? You know what I mean? Like, what should I expect? You know, I mean, how have you found traveling solo has empowered you or enriched you as a person?
It's made me who I am. And I feel you as a writer. For me, it's more important to really touch one person than to, you know, reach a million people. It's that one person who writes me back and says, like, wow, this reading your blog gave me the inspiration I needed, or like that push I needed to actually go and give this a try. Like, I've been wanting to do it forever. And so that's what makes it all worthwhile for me. And I feel the same way you did. Traveling solo has been such a huge part of my life, and for years it was my life. Like, that was what my life was based on, and I designed the rest of my lifestyle around it so that I could travel solo and live nomadically. And I think it's given me so many tools that even right now I'm based more in Costa Rica, and I still travel a lot around the region of Central America. But it's given me so many tools to power everything else that I do. It's like the confidence that it's given me, the sort of problem-solving skills, the ability to connect with different people from different cultures, to pick up languages. It's like everything that I learned as a solo traveler that's still serving me in my life every single day. And what I learned also about material things, like learning what's really essential and learning to let go of things easily. You know, you talked about giving things away or like leaving clothes behind as you traveled. I did that a lot as well. And now when I move from one apartment to another, I move from one country to another, it's just like, okay, yeah, I know what's important to me, and I know that most of this stuff isn't.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. It's what you're sharing, and for, like, as a female traveler, I think I can really connect with what you shared. One of the things that it's really taught me as a solo traveler who is a woman is not to sweat the small stuff. I mean, some of the shit that can happen when you're alone traveling on the other side of the world, whether it's losing your passport or your wallet or this or that, and problem-solving skills, as you spoke about. When you come back into the real world, everything seems so, like, mundane. Like, you know, like, everyday things are just like, oh, this is totally fine. Because when you're out there, you're alone. You're all you've got. When you're on the road, or you're standing on the side of the road and it's pelting down with rain, you're all you've got. You have to push yourself. You have to say, okay, Toby, come on, like, don't cry. Like, you have to get home. You have to get to a house somewhere. Like, you've got to, you know, so you learn to rely on yourself, and that's something I don't think I could ever have learned. Staying in my comfort zone, staying in the city, going to all the safe destinations that people say that women should go to. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and you learn to figure it out. Paradoxically, I think you also learn how to ask for help. And you
Yes.
realize that you're like, yeah, you learn how to rely on yourself and you realize that you have all the resources you need. But on the other hand, you also learn how to ask for directions and just ask for help when
Yeah.
you're really screwed and you need support.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a real challenge for me. Not because I don't mind asking for help, but because I think people were so unaccustomed to me. First of all, what was I doing hitchhiking? It was like, what is this? I was the only person hitchhiking at the end of winter in Europe. So there was no one else on the road. It was just bizarre for people. And then I was in parts of Europe where they weren't really accustomed, and I had to ask for help, and people weren't always willing to give the help. And sometimes it was really hard when people would
Mm,
just not give the help to ask the next person, but there was always help. There was always someone.
there's
And
always
that, for me,
someone.
that just restored my faith in humanity. That most of the
Mm,
time, when the way that people respond to you has nothing to do with you, especially if you're a stranger on the road, it has nothing to do with you. That really helped me let go of people's perceptions of me, because the one person could be like, no, fuck off. But then the next person would be like,
mhm.
oh my God, yes, of course, and come home and eat with us and this and that and na na na. And then
Wow.
it's beautiful, and especially asking for help from people. Hitchhiking is essentially relying on the benevolence of strangers. So you are asking for help by sticking your hand out in the road in a
Totally.
country where no one speaks the language you speak. And I just found that beautiful. That is hitchhiking is such a demonstration of the pureness of the human spirit. Someone who cannot say a word to you has stopped their car to drive you somewhere. And these people would sometimes stop and be like, coffee? And I'll be like, yes. Or they'd stop and suddenly we get donuts. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, you never feel this connection in the city, in your regular life, like,
Mhm.
so yeah, asking for help just by standing on the road is amazing.
And I love what you said. Like, what a great lesson also for our normal lives, that people's reactions to us aren't about us. I think that's such a key thing to remember, in
Yeah.
any situation, whether we're abroad or we're at home. The way people respond to us is about them.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're tired and you're in the same, I don't know, underwear that you wore last night and your feet are aching and your back is sore and you're just, of course, you didn't have a chance to do your hair because you're a backpacker, you're hitchhiking and you're tired and someone makes a comment or someone looks at you funny, it's easy to take it personally, especially when you're far from home. But later upon reflection, you honestly realize that, yeah, it's more about the perception of the way that people treat you like that is more a reflection of themselves than you, this person who just fell out
Mm,
of the sky. So it helps you, it buffers you. Um,
yeah.
it really does, yeah.
And then there are all of those wonderful people who are so hospitable and so helpful, and I felt the same thing. That's one of the things that I love about hitchhiking, is that it just sort of confirms my optimism about humanity. that
Yes,
that there are so many good people out there, and that most
yeah,
people do just want to help.
yeah,
And
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of difficult times, and there were a lot of unpleasant stories, but the beautiful stories trump the the ugly stories. I mean, the people who helped, the people who stopped, the people who invited me to stay the night, or who took me a city further than they were going to, or like there were so many amazing people on these roads. And like you said, it confirmed my optimism about the world. I walk around like la di da, and in our everyday world, people are like, yeah, okay, like the humans are like, people are really jaded about the world. And yeah, I mean, life can be really crap, but when you break life down into a simple thing, as simple a thing as standing on the road as a total stranger and someone trusting you enough to pick you up, then you remember that life is beautiful and humans, we're all just made to love and receive love, and it's just, oh, it's just amazing. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. That's beautiful. We're Diana, we're almost out of time, and I want to give you a chance. I like to ask at the end of these talks if people have any advice for solo female travelers, and I want to sort of narrow that down to if you
Yeah.
have advice for people who, like other Black African women holding African passports
Yeah.
who are looking at your way of traveling and wondering if they could do that too, what would you
Mm.
tell them?
I would say one thing to be very aware of is please make sure that you know where your nearest high commission or embassy is. Um, when I lost my
Mm.
passport in Laos, it was so hard to get help. Um, other than that, just I would say just go where no African traveler has gone before. I mean, don't not go. I mean, just because someone hasn't gone there doesn't mean you shouldn't go there. Go there and then tell a story so that others can
Mm.
follow. You know, there's a tendency for people to want to go down the beaten track, but you know, there's the road less traveled, which has brought me so much magic, and it does get uncomfortable, but the memories are so worth it, and the experiences are so worth it. So I'd say just be fearless. And one of my favorite sayings is by Goethe: "Be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid." That's what I've always found is true for me.
Mm. Love that.
Yeah.
Diana, thank you so much for your time and for sharing some of
Thank
your
you,
stories.
Toby.
I love your perspective on travel. I hope I can invite you back sometime and do a part
I'd
two
love
to
it.
this talk.
I'd love that.
And yeah, just thank you for sharing. I
Thanks
really
so
enjoyed
much for
it.
having me. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day forward.
Likewise, have a great day. And thank you everyone who is watching.
Thank you.
Okay.